Welcome to West Virginia and Commonplace. Today I've got a native of my home state of Virginia. Even though I run West Virginia and Commonplace, I am a native of Central Virginia, the 434 area code. Um, I have Shannon with me today. And Shannon, you have to forgive me. She just went over her last name with me just that fast. I lost your last name. Shannon, please tell the audience who you are and why you are here today, please.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Shannon Mosher, and I'm here today to discuss the book that I most recently had written a few months ago, and just to talk about some of the content that would be relevant to help those folks who might be struggling with some mental health situations these days. There's a lot going on in 2020. We get stuck in our thoughts, and my book is all about how to get unstuck from your thoughts and start moving towards a better life.
And I like that about you, because mental health is taboo. Um, it doesn't matter. I always say this: the younger generation, they have a better staple of people talking about mental health. But I'm talking about, I'm 35 years old, so I'm going to say from 35. Well, we'll go from 28 to almost 50 something. Mental health is taboo. We
Mm-hmm.
hide it. We say that someone. We always put the word crazy on people,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't want to deal with it. And now, because
Mm-hmm.
everything's so centered around everyone, me and you grew up in a generation where it was not always centered on us. Everything was a group effort.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have so much me. It was us. If it didn't benefit us, we're not going to worry with it. And I thank you for writing your book and all this other stuff. So let's do this. Let's spin this real quick. Shannon, tell everybody a little bit about your upbringing, because the thing about that, I always like to do that in a podcast for the simple fact that your upbringing kind of tells a story about how you got to where you're going.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I find that that's one of the things that helps me to be an effective counselor as well, is because I can relate with my clients who are struggling with emotional pain. I actually grew up with two absent parents. I grew up in Bassett, Virginia. So, like you said, I'm in your stomping grounds there, and so I basically raised myself from the age of 17. And I didn't have a role model. I didn't have anyone to teach me anything. I had to learn all these things about myself. But growing up with absent parents, you start to take in these perceptions about yourself that you're not lovable, you're not good enough, and you're always trying to accomplish things because when you achieve certain things, you're tying your self worth to that. And so if I wasn't achieving things, then I felt really terrible about myself. And so, anyways, long story short, those thoughts, feelings, things like that, that were very immature, bled into my first marriage. And during the roller coaster ride that I experienced in my first marriage, I really found my path going through counseling. So I attended counseling. My counselor, she helped me to unearth some things that were part of my childhood that really impacted me in my present day, and that was causing my anxiousness, my depressive symptoms, things of that nature. And she really helped me to discover that life could be different and you can get out of your head. And the voices in your head and all of these shaming and blaming messages that you put on yourself, that's all you, right? You do that to yourself, you punish yourself. And so she helped me to work through those things. And that landed me into obviously wanting to become a counselor myself, because I realized that you don't have to be on medication in a lot of circumstances to deal with your mental health situations. You can do it naturally through talk therapy. And I wanted to be able to take the learning that I had and transform that into something where I could help others. And that takes me back to the reason why I wrote this book. I understand that therapy can be quite expensive and it can be taboo. Just like you mentioned earlier, some people don't want to go to therapy because they think that they're crazy and they're robbing themselves of an opportunity to really do something wholesome and meaningful for their life. So I wrote the book to really scratch the surface and talk about things that you can start doing, different thinking patterns that you can start implementing in your life that will actually help to supplement if you do decide to take that decision and go see a counselor yourself. Or if you're not quite ready for that yet, it'll at least pique your interest enough and give you enough skills to get you reflecting and turning your attention inward on yourself and really starting to heal some of those wounds. So hopefully that explains in a nutshell of where I started and where I'm at today. And really, I love doing podcasts. I love being on the radio. I love doing these things because I care so much about helping others. And it's not about money to me. It's really about, let's do this together. We're all in the same boat of emotional pain. Let me use my expertise and my experience to help others. And that's really what I want to leave your listeners with.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Now we're gonna do a little spin on this. Me and you grew up in the era where there was 2020 News Magazine. You had John Stossel that did a little comedy. You had Diane Sawyer that had a few questions, but you had Barbara Walters that had hard hitting questions. So I'm going to give you the Barbara Walters from right off the bat. All
All
right.
right.
And this is something that's crazy. Before we did this podcast today, I was talking about something about love. We always talk about relationships and stuff like that, but you told a story that I literally just put into a post that I haven't posted yet, which is crazy. Um, you came from a house. You didn't come from a home.
Right.
So where did you develop love? That has been the hardest topic that I've been
Mm.
that's to get people to grasp. I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue tied. Where did you develop love? Because where I come from, I had a mother, father. They expressed love. They showed love. So I learned love. I knew love from the day I came out the womb to the day. I mean, even beyond when my father passed away, I knew love, and I
Mm-hmm.
carried that on in life. Where did you develop your love? And the reason that I try to get deep into this because I thought about it. You know, we take advice from people on relationships and everything else, but we're talking about the aspect of love because you have to have self care, but you have to love yourself before you can go get help from anyone. How did you develop your love for yourself?
I think that's a great question. And there's many, as you ask that question, there's so many things that start going in my head to answer that. And for me personally, I initially, the way that I learned love was, I did have family members. They always say it takes a village, right? I did have family members that in some ways had shown or demonstrated love to me, but not from an affection standpoint, not from a presence standpoint. And I never got the opportunity to really observe two people, my parents, to be in love and to demonstrate what love is and to roll through conflict together, but still be strong as a unit. And the ways that and this is another way that other people who, maybe have faced similar circumstances, such as myself, determine love is by fantasy, by looking through movies, by comparing ourselves to others, looking at their relationships and trying to pick up those pieces and make sense of it. Um, it's really muddling through everything that society tells you, the relationships that are in front of you, and questioning, what is this and how do I respond in these situations? And I was never really taught how to love. And so going back to how that bled into my marriage, there was a lot of things that maybe I wasn't ready to take ownership yet because I didn't know. There was a lot of my own self-limiting beliefs that I just didn't realize were bleeding into that situation that was causing a lot of not only my own personal strife, but the strife in the marriage. And, again, there's a maturity aspect and things like that. But the way that I learned self-love was actually through acceptance. Okay. And I know that that seems really broad, but for example, acceptance is, instead of allowing a story of, well, he should be doing this, if he doesn't do it this way, then it means he doesn't love me, right? That's actually a distorted thought. And then you start to feel unlovable. So I had to take a step back and I had to say, okay, that was just a thought. I'm using an emotional filter right now. 90% of what we filter is from the past, excuse me, anyways. So only 10% was my logic side. So I really had to learn how to step back and stop taking things so personally and start to say, okay, that was just a thought, but I am a lovable person. Here's the evidence how, right? And I had to use the circumstances in which I show love. Now, the other part of this question too is I get people who have certain expectations of their partner of how love should be, or even expectations of their parents of how love should be. And what happens is if you're expecting a parent or a partner to provide and to give you certain things that you need emotionally, and you have that expectation of them and they're not meeting that expectation, you start to get resentful and things really start turning in a bad direction. And so my question to those folks is, when you look at when you have these unmet needs as it relates to love and feeling love, whoever it is, whether you look at your spouse or you look at your parents, it depends on where you're at in life, right? If you think about what their parental relationships were like and who taught them to love, majority of the time when I ask that question, well, who taught your parents to love? Then there's usually a conflict there. There's usually something that's there that's like, oh, well, they would argue all the time, or oh, it was alcoholism, or oh, whatever. And I'm like, okay, so let's think about that for a minute. If your parents never learned how to love, but you have the expectation that they should love you, but they were never taught how to love, then how does that change your viewpoint? And it actually shifts into this level of compassion. And it's like, wow, I'm expecting this person to love me, but they were never taught how, right? So then you can't think that it's all about you anymore. It's situational. They can't love you, or they're not demonstrating their love to you because they don't know how. It's not about you at all. And so that's where the acceptance part comes in.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense, because like the whole thing that I've been going over, because like I said, I have no degree in anything like this. I was telling somebody that it's all about a concept. We make conceptual love, and then we spread that conceptual love. And just because what we have in our concept of what love should be, that's not going to be love for everybody else. Right. And I said, you have to always be careful about the advice you take, because like you said, you found that there was a pattern where love really wasn't there. And that's something that I always wanted to dive into. So let's dive into your book real quick. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in the inside of this book? Tell us a little bit about the parts therapy.
Yeah, so parts therapy, there's a lot of contributors to this particular technique. There's internal family systems therapy by Dr. Richard Schwartz. There's parts therapy by Roy Hunter, who is a world-renowned hypnotherapist. There's even other books that are out there that talk about the multiplicity of the mind. And as I dug into this, parts therapy, if you think about, and I don't have royalties or rights or anything like that, but if you've ever seen that little cartoon, the Disney movie Inside Out, you have your 5 little characters, right? That's parts therapy. It's understanding how those little characters that are in your mind get you emotionally involved in situations. What wounds are they carrying? How do they stand up for each other? How do they help each other? 9 times out of 10, if we have an angry part of us, for example, we want to shush it away. We want to sweep it under the rug. We want to ignore it, or we want to fight with it. And then what happens is those thoughts end up coming back with a vengeance. So my book teaches you how to hear your thoughts and how to learn and accept them as a part of your internal system of your mind, okay, that are actually there with good, positive intentions that were just forced into roles based on past experiences, and they're trying to protect you. So understanding those voices in the head, not to say that you agree with them, but to say, you know what? Okay, I hear that thought. I realize that there is that part of me that still hurts from whatever situation, or that part of me is still angry about that. Yeah, and that's okay. Instead of saying, oh, I shouldn't be angry because then that means I'm ungrateful, or, whatever, right? But there's a lot of different shaming and blaming messages that you can have in your head, but it's really about listening to those thoughts, not labeling them as good or bad, and just saying, yeah, a part of me does feel that way in certain instances. And it's just a much more relieving and relaxing way, a relaxing approach, rather than getting lost in the narrative of where your brain ends up trying to take you, because your brain always needs a story for something.
Right. I agree with that so wholeheartedly on that one. So you know how podcast goes. I need you real quick to plug where people can meet you, talk to you, and where you are. Because you got some people that skip through the podcast. They're like, I like this part, I like that part. And I'll get you to do this one more time if you don't mind. Could you tell them where they can meet you, meet in the middle, to talk to you, to get your services? Where can they meet you, Shannon?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for bringing that up. So, the best way to reach me is actually going to be through my email. You can email me at shannon@lifespringhouston.com. I do live in Houston, Texas right now. But again, my email is shannon@lifespringhouston.com. You can also find my book on Amazon. It's called Inner Acceptance. And I also have free resources on my website, and you can contact me on the book website anyways, and that's inneracceptance.com. So I'll be happy to share those details again later.
Okay. Now, I like that we were able to do the Diane Sawyer or the Barbara Walters question first. Now let's go to the Diane Sawyer one. And this is her questions were always personal. I don't know if you remember too much about 2020 because it's kind of it's vivid in my mind because I do this take all the time. But Diane Sawyer would do something kind of personal. So you counsel people, you help people, and you've told the story, somewhat of your life. But when did you get hurt? After that, when did you get to because everyone, we get hurt, we build up, we become this strong person, you become the counselor. But where did you get hurt again that fortified you? Because first you built yourself up, but you weren't fortified. Where did you get hurt to get to where you are now?
As I think about that, we all have different hurts and different levels of hurts. And the part that I think really stands out to me is how through my career and things like that, I would always personalize things. And so I would actually hurt myself, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I would hurt myself with my thoughts. So let me give you an example. So as I was training to become a counselor, you have to do like a residency. You have to fulfill so many hours requirements. And so my supervisor he had been a psychologist for 40 some odd years.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I would observe and watch some of his, counseling sessions, and he was wonderful. And I would always find myself comparing myself to him, and I felt so inadequate. And again, I'm novice here. So here I am, brand new person, and I'm trying to compare myself to this person that's got 40 years of experience, and I'm feeling inadequate. And that inadequacy was just muddling me through my counseling, and I almost gave up, right? And that's how I hurt myself. I almost believed that I couldn't do it. And there were a lot of instances in 2020 where I had to face fears. Obviously, a lot of us had. Just going to the grocery store, you're facing fears, right?
Man, yes.
But I think that there's a lot of, it's not just one hurtful experience, but it's a combination of multiple experiences that just kind of glob into one, right? And then it's almost like every time something happens, it ends up just confirming your doubts, right? And I think that happens to a lot of us. But I would definitely say that not only did my first marriage, my divorce, and everything that I went through that, and this whole discovery process, that was the huge part that really fortified me in my life. And then just these little mini trial runs that I get in life, these little hurtful experiences that really challenge, my ability to be able to turn my attention within and really just offer myself some self-compassion through that. And it's hard. A lot of people want to run in, through the emotion of it and get sidetracked. And it's really hard, but I do that by just taking a step back, taking a breath and saying, all right, Shannon, be nice to yourself for a minute. Come on, let's have some compassion here. Talk to myself like I'm a friend, right? Stop comparing myself. These thoughts that are running through my head, I see you, I hear you, I feel you. I don't have to get lost in you. I can let you go. This is all the mental self-talk that I have in my head. And it's just really powerful once you have an awareness that it's there, that you can do it, and then you start practicing with it, and it's really awesome. So I know that maybe you were hoping for, a groundbreaking situation that really hurt me, but I really think that it's just a multitude of things that hurt us on the daily that we deal with.
And I can agree with that because that's how I feel. I had one. I'm one of those people that I was not necessarily happy-go-lucky, but I had one thing happen, and then it just transformed me. Now, diving into this book, I grab your book off of Amazon. You can grab it in physical form and paperback. I mean, paperback and digital, or just digital.
Yes, you can. On Amazon, you can get the paperback and the ebook version.
All right, so I put it on my iPad. I'm reading through my Kindle app. Um, what are certain methods or techniques that you use to? No, I'm not saying draw someone in because that's not the correct way, but I'll say, how do you intrigue me? How do you get my mental right with your methods? What are your basically? So basically, what are your methods? How do you help me along my journey?
I share stories. Stories help you to relate with others. Stories almost speak your language, at least in a similar degree of, hey, I've experienced that to some degree, right? So I actually have some stories of actual clients that I had completed therapy with who, by learning the methods that I teach in the book and really making a commitment to themselves and practicing, have found a new life, something different. And it's so powerful. I mean, I get chills when I think about it because, when I have somebody that's coming to me with 40 years of anxiety and they can't even go to the grocery store because they're freaking out and having panic attacks and everything, and they learn the 7 steps that I teach in the book, and they go from 40 years of being in a shell and not living life and not being able to get on a plane and go do the things that they want to do, and being dependent on their husband to just go through the grocery store because they're so afraid of everything that's going on, and moving and transforming that to, she can go to the grocery store now. She can get on a plane. She can go to the doctor. She can do all the things now just by following these methods. And they're very simple. They're very, very simple. All it takes is a commitment to yourself and trying to practice it. What's really cool too is that although inside the book I have certain techniques with little acronyms to make it easy to remember. It's
Uh-huh.
one thing to read it, but it's a whole nother level when you hear it. So I had actually hired this company out in Britain, a voiceover artist, and we would do meditations. And I know some people are probably like, oh my God, meditations. Here's this Western philosophical or Eastern philosophical, whatever. And it's not about that. It's about being able to listen to what you're reading, because if you're an auditory person, you need that. So I also have that on the website as well. Those are resources to help walk you through and practice some of those techniques.
Okay, so you got a way to help everybody. So I like that.
I try,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that way, because sometimes we both know that it's hard to gauge people and get people involved, but with so much involvement that you're doing, by having that, because I'm an audio person myself, because I travel so much that I
Hmm.
like I'll put a podcast in and I'll just go. I don't listen to any of my own material most of the time, but something that's going to help me,
Hmm.
I'll listen to it, and that goes a long ways with me. Okay, we've come to a part in this podcast where you have to give back to the audience and me.
Okay.
Um, my first few podcasts in the last season, I met a rapper, and this rapper, intelligent guy, doing pretty good on Spotify, wherever else. He can solve a Rubik's cube in 40 seconds. Okay. Had another lady that has something that makes her debilitated. The sound of a Coke can or anything, that sound, that clicking sound from a commercial, it'll make her stop doing everything in life. She won't go anywhere. If she's in the car, she'll pull it off the side of the road. And then there comes my part. I tell the story about beats, but I have another secret that I've never told anybody. I travel everywhere. I go to I climb rocks, all kinds of stuff. But there's something weird, and I go to ocean and everything. I cannot swim. That's my secret. I cannot swim. I have no fear of dying in the water. Someone there will save me. It's kind of weird, but I can't swim. So, if you wouldn't mind, Shannon, could you give us a secret talent or a secret that no one knows about you?
Oh man, that's so tough. And because I'm an introverted person, I think and then I think and then I think. So a secret about me.
That
Oh
no
my
one
gosh.
knows. That we're putting you on Front Street because this is the one little concept in this show. I always do this for the simple fact that sometimes you find out something very interesting. Like I found out one lady, how she memorizes people. It's by the brand of clothing you wear. if you wear Nautica, if you wear something from Walmart, you wear Starter, anything, she will remember that you wear Starter and you wear the light lilac color. And that's how she
Hmm.
remembers who you are. So people have different quirks and different things. And I had another one. What was the funniest one I've had? Oh yeah, I had one that was really funny. A lady goes out to Goodwills and different places and buys old artwork, and then she puts glitter and rhinestones on it and resells it.
Hmm. Oh man. Um, Gosh, I don't know. I think if anything, I'm always just very honest. I don't try to hide anything. I always say that honesty is the best policy. And if people, one of the things that I always did was to try to sugarcoat things to be a people pleaser because I never
Uh-huh.
really wanted to hurt anybody's feelings and I wanted to caress and massage what I say. And there's always benefit in doing that. But then you rob people of the opportunity to, um, really have an outlet and feel what it is that they're feeling inside and to know um, these important things about themselves. So for me, I still shy away to a certain degree of telling the truth because I'm still afraid of someone experiencing emotional pain. I still have that people pleaser part in me. So the trick that I do in order to get past that is within a blink of an eye, I just kind of close my eyes and I just take a nice deep breath and I'll say, okay, a part of me is kind of scared to tell the truth here, but this other part needs to tell the truth. This is all mentally in my head. I'm like recognizing both of those parts. And I'll say, you know what? There's a part of me that really just doesn't want to tell you the truth right now. Um, but this other part of me knows that I need to be honest with you right now. And so I'm going to share with you what my honest opinion about that is. And I'm validating both of my parts, right? And I'm basically not preventing myself from speaking the truth to that person. So if I'm going to leave you with anything that you're doubtful of, even if it's swimming or whatever, just in a blink of an eye, just take a nice deep breath and just validate whatever it is that you're experiencing, but then allow that part that needs to do whatever it needs to do to come out.
Okay, I can accept that. That's a good one. That's a good one there. Now, what's the future look like for you? You got this book out here. You're counseling. You're all over the internet. What's next for you?
Yeah, so actually, most recently, I had completed a gratitude journal as well. And did you allow bad words to be on this podcast or
Yeah,
not?
we say whatever you want to say.
All right. So I came up with a gratitude journal because gratitude, not forced gratitude, but gratitude is something that really helps to give you a meaningful and purposeful life. So I've created this gratitude journal and it's called Gratitude Sprinkles: How to Sprinkle That Shit Everywhere and Live a Bomb Ass Life.
I like
Um, so that's actually what I just worked on, and so really, what I'm trying to help people, um, underlying there is to be unapologetically you, and that's the stance that I'm taking these days. Say it how you need to say it. Be you, right? So I'm working on another project that's going to be a little bit longer. That's related to a therapy technique, actually, and we're going to be rolling out certification programs within the next few
it.
years. Yeah, it's called unconscious resilience therapy, and it's a new treatment modality that I'm working on with a few colleagues. So that's actually on my agenda, and doing a lot of research, having a lot of fun with the gratitude sprinkles, and I'm doing blogs now. I'm asking people for topics, and so feel free to email me again. I know we'll get back to that later, but emailing me your topics about what you want to hear about, and I'm transitioning and taking those topics into blogs and articles, and I'm posting them on my website. So that way it's relevant, it's meaningful, and you're always going to walk away with three steps that you can walk away with and start applying in your life.
Huh.
Simple.
So you got a lot going on.
A lot. A lot.
All right, now Shannon, everybody gets to a certain point in life, but there's always people in the background. Could you give a shout out to the people in the background that help you? Because there was someone that was always behind you somewhere. They may have stumbled and fell off, and then another person came, but we always have something that builds us up. So
Yeah.
who around with you would you give a shout out to for helping you along your way?
I love that. And thank you for asking, because I wouldn't be able to do this without encouragement from others, or else I'd get stuck in my head, which is, kind of the point of the book. But Dr. Lerman, Dr. Marty Lerman, he was my supervisor for many years. He's still a great friend of mine. Definitely want to give him a shout out. And I want to give a shout out to my husband, Stephen Mosher. He has been so supportive and encouraging. And, sometimes he might be like, well, that's weird, but he still rolls with it and he supports me. And my kids, they get so excited when they find out that I'm going to be on a podcast. So definitely a shout out to all four of my kids, Chloe, Joshua, Gabriel, and Matthew. Love them to death. And, without this circle of people in my life, I don't know what I'd do. So those are my shout out people. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Now, before we get out this podcast, I always have to do this, and this falls in the lines of, you're a social media influencer, no matter if you say you're not. We all are.
Okay.
I found out that I am. I stopped somewhere locally back home. What was a town? It was a little small town somewhere between Bedford and Roanoke County.
Okay.
Somewhere, someone recognized me and said, "Man, one of your guests. It wasn't me that helped him, but one of my guests, just like in your case, helped him." So what I need help with is this. You're an author also,
Mm-hmm.
counselor, you have all this background. When you started writing this book, what was a roadblock you hit and how did you get over that roadblock?
Yeah. So the roadblock for me is I'm a very technical person. Um, I'm not a story writer. Okay. I'm I am creative, but I'm not. And the problem with me, especially writing this particular book, which I'm really looking forward to my next book because it's very clinical and it's very dry and it's very technical because I'm just a dork and that's just the way my brain works. So this book really challenged me from a creativity standpoint, the power of words, how to use words to influence and captivate the interest of my readers, how to break this story down so that way it creates imagery in your mind. Anytime you're creating an image, when you're reading a book and it creates an image in your mind, you're going to remember it. Okay. So, how do I create that imagery? There was a lot that was going into it. So, when I first started, and I was taking a look at what I had from pen to paper, I was like, gosh, this is so technical, and I started beating myself up, and I was like, oh, I don't think I can do this. But then I just validated that part of me. And I said, you know what? I realized that this part of me is really trying to keep me from doing this book. But what's your purpose, Shannon? And my purpose was to help people. That was my motivation. That was my determination. I needed to get this out there because I knew the content would help people. I love people. I want to help people. I've had reviews about my book that says this book is like just Shannon's giving you a warm hug. Okay. And that's what I want. I want you to feel connected. I want you to feel heard and understood. And I want you to walk away with things that are practical, simple, and useful that you can start applying and start living your life, living the life that you want to live. It's okay to do that. And I want to teach you and help you out.
Okay. That's a good answer there. Now, here's the hard hitting question.
Again.
Yeah, this one hits harder because this question I'm about to ask you, some people freeze up on this, and I'm talking about people that have your discipline in their background. And this is something that I don't freeze up on because obviously I have to deal with it a lot from episode to episode. How do you deal with the criticism?
Criticism, it's almost like I'm walking even into this podcast that says I'm going to have people that will not like my message. I might mess up on my words. I might not make sense. And I'm okay with that. I am an imperfect human, just like you are. I put my pants on the same way you do. I bump my elbow on the wall and stub my toes the same way that you do. And that's how I deal with the criticism, right? I bring it down to the humility aspect of I'm an imperfect human. Not everyone's going to like me, and I'm okay with that. I'm always open to criticisms as well that says, you know what? I understand that maybe you were displeased with what I said or you didn't agree with it or whatnot. Tell me more about that. Maybe I'm missing something. I always try to treat it as a learning opportunity because maybe I am missing something. I think that the criticism is something that's going to help to open my eyes to say, oh, yeah, I can see how I was blinded in that area. That's the perspective that I try to have. I'm done with the blaming and shaming of myself. I've been there, I've done that. And I know that there's no power in beating myself up from criticism of others or criticism of myself. There's much more power in learning how to roll with it and learning how to learn from it and being okay with, as I had mentioned earlier, being unapologetically you, being you. I'm going to be me. Like me or love me, whatever. I'm fine with it. I love you still. It's okay.
And I thank you for that, because so many people, that's what kills creativity. That's what stops people from living their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I may have 1,000 people say this over time, it's the sound of your voice, it's the way you say it. Those things convey, or a little bit of my favorite word, they resonate
Mm-hmm.
with people that won't listen to the next person or the person 2 episodes before you. So I always tell people, thank you for doing this, because that right there, you'll get takeaways from your business and everything else, but you right there, you set up the future with what you just said.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
And I
And
appreciate that. So
yeah, thank you.
um in wrapping up,
And it's real. I keep it real.
yeah, I
It's real.
like that. And in wrapping up, I want to tell you thank you for coming on West Virginia and Commonplace.
My pleasure.
um we're actually, and this is weird, like we're actually not, our stomping grounds are a little distance, but we're actually from the same area. So I really like it when I get to get someone that's a local from my area, because our mannerisms are different, and where we're from is different territories, but we all have the same concept: we want to help.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and I mean, in any other city people do that, but where we're from, it's just different.
We're
So
a
I really
different breed.
appreciate having you on. And in the near future, I'd like to have you back because you have other projects. And the other thing, like where you helped out with that love situation right there. And I'm putting this at the end of the episode because I'm probably not going to put a review at the end of this. I'm just going to tie this in here. Um, your thoughts and your patterns on love and all that stuff are amazing. I wish I could have taken that, bottled it up, and sold it, because I think, we, like I said, we can't put a hard shell on how people are supposed to love each other and all that other stuff, but that really will tie into people. And I want to thank you for that. And once again, I want to thank you for being in West Virginia Commonplace.
Yes, absolutely. You're most welcome. And I reach out to me anytime. I want to be a resource.
Okay. Now, definitely one thing we forgot to do, tell everybody where they can get your book and where they can find you.
Right. So again, you can get the book on Amazon. It's in the paperback or the ebook version. It's called Inner Acceptance: How to Embrace Your Inner Mind and Change Your Life. You can also purchase the book on the website, inneracceptance.com. And you can reach me directly at Shannon@lifespringhouston.com. Again, that's SHANNON at LIFESPRINGHOUSTON.com.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.